on to our final discussion of the day. We are very fortunate here to have, again, the ranking Republican on the Senate Agriculture Committee, John Boozman of Arkansas. I think you're well known. I'm not going to take any more of your time. Senator Boozman, come on up, and then hopefully we'll have a chance to have some questions.
Sounds good. Well, thank you all. It's good to be with you. I think last time when we were together, here's the boss. Last time we were together, we were on Zoom, and I'm about zoomed out, as all of you all are. We've all had countless Zooms. There's just no substitute for being together. We had our first little group of our first family from Arkansas back today on spring break that were actually able to come into the office. They were so excited to be there, and they didn't realize we were as excited as they were. That hadn't always been the case. It's always been the case in the sense, it's so nice that these families are able to come up. So it's good to see things coming back to normal. It's always a pleasure to visit with Phil. I'm sure you're armed with plenty of questions. Hopefully they're easy ones. I want to say a few things about the Farm Bill process before we start our conversation. First of all, I've got to give a shout out to Senator Roberts. He is such a great friend, great mentor. And besides that, he and my wife and his wife are dear friends. So whenever I wanted anything done, I'd just tell Kathy, and then Kathy would tell his wife, and we'd get it done. It was great. So I just want to say a few things about the Farm Bill process before we start our conversation. Like all of you, I'm very excited to get the process underway. Washington has grown extremely polarized. I think that's an understatement. Many of you all have been around here for a long time. I haven't been around forever, but I've been around for a few years when things were a little bit different. I think the Farm Bill offers us an opportunity to show Americans that we can work together to get important things done. The current Farm Bill gives us a good template to follow that success, negotiated again by former Chairman Pat Roberts and current Chairwoman and then Ranking Member Debbie Stabenow on our side of the aisle, in the sense of our side of the Capitol, both of whom you've heard from at this summit. It passed the Senate with a record number of yes votes on the floor, which is really remarkable. My goal is to top that. So we're going to be asking you for advice, Pat, as to how we get that done. But that is certainly quite a challenge, but one that I think Senator Stabenow and I are really eager to take on. I'm confident that she and I and the leadership in the House Ag Committee are prepared for the hard work that it would take to accomplish just that. We all understand that when it comes to agriculture, our differences are most often not political but regional. This makes creating a farm bill that can become law a delicate balance. The needs of each region and commodity have got to be balanced, along with the numerous priorities of the nation's diverse farmers, ranchers, and forest land owners. That is why we rely on each of you in attendance as key stakeholders in this debate to help shape a farm bill that sets you up for success. I really do believe, and I believe this with all of my heart, that the best ideas come from the ground up. The good news is that the Senate Agriculture Committee has a long, long history of being very, very bipartisan. Chairwoman Stabenow and I are committed to working together as we look to write the next farm bill and plan to kick off hearings in the very near future. The hearings are a critical first step in this process, getting out and about, actually visiting with those in person, out on the farm or in all of the allied industries that support the farms. It's important that we get the bill right, and that means we have to listen to our stakeholders. That is why we always start the process with hearings to seek your input. The Farm Bill is all about safety nets for our family farmers, ranchers, and foresters, but it is also a safety net for rural America. The two go hand in hand. For much of rural America, agriculture is simply all that's left. In my home state of Arkansas, agriculture is our largest industry. We could say that about most of the states in the United States. The industry adds around $21 billion to our state's economy every year. It accounts for approximately 1 in 6 jobs. We are a largely rural state, and when you get outside of any city of any size, agriculture, instead of being 25% of the economy, is probably 85 or 90% of the economy. I was visiting with Ron Portman the other day. He was 25%, same deal. It really is amazing how important it is, because we lost our rural manufacturing now. The challenge we face in rural America is playing out in rural communities across the country. People are opting to leave in pursuit of economic opportunities outside of farming. My home state, as I said, has 75 counties, 55 of them lost population. They didn't have a whole lot to begin with. You start losing those turnback dollars, and then you just drive yourself down and down. It's not just farming. It's rural schools. It is rural hospitals, rural medicine. How do you serve the underserved areas? That's the first thing that people look at when they're going to move into an area. You lose your school, you lose your community. And the same is true in large extent to your county hospital or whatever. So these are things that certainly USDA has helped in the past and is going to continue to help, again, to shore up what we consider rural America. While gross farm income is projected to reach new heights this year, record high production expenses will offset that income, ultimately pushing profits lower. This is just the latest in a long line of challenges our producers have been facing and have faced in the years since the current Farm Bill was passed. Our family farmers have faced one crisis after another: a trade war, COVID, destructive natural disasters, record high input costs, and now major market disruptions as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The list goes on and on. We've written farm bills in good times and in bad. This one will be written, I think, truly in unprecedented times. Despite all of this, there's plenty of reason for optimism. I believe we have learned a great deal from each of these events that we can apply to strengthen the food chain, help our producers be better prepared for the next crisis, and rebuild our rural economies. We've learned from previous iterations of the Farm Bill that we must take care of all of the commodities in every region of the country in order to succeed. And we must have a united front when the bill passes out of committee. It is vital for all in this room to build the coalitions that will help us strengthen the final product and protect the industry as a whole from outside attacks. This is the approach that we intend to take as leaders of the Senate and House Agricultural Committees. We ask you to join us in this effort. Together, we can craft a farm bill that works for everyone and, as I said, receives a record amount of support in both chambers. And with that, thank you, and it's an honor to be with you, and I'll be glad to answer any easy questions that you might pose.
Thank you, Senator. And of course, the easy questions are going to be about money. We took a poll this morning, and there was a strong majority who said that, who responded that it was very important that conservation programs receive more funding in the next Farm Bill. We had representatives of food companies saying the same thing. Is there any source of funding? Is there any way to increase conservation spending?
I think, first of all, you have to define conservation. Are we talking about equip? Are we talking about land set aside?
Conservation title.
You know, but like I say, there's so much within that title.
I think they're talking about what's traditionally thought of as working lands programs, equip.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all. You know, we talk so much about climate, rightfully so. We all want clean water, clean air. And the good news is that the farm community does a tremendous job in doing that. I think we have 10% of the emissions, but we always have to remember we produce 100% of the food for Americans and a bunch for every place else. So no, I was at the farm. In fact, I'd encourage you all, if you hadn't gone out, to go out to the, it's Ag Day, and there's all kinds of equipment. Some of you all represent groups that are out there, and there's little kids climbing over the tractors. I wanted to climb over them. But it's a lot of fun. But there's so much technology now that we can get out that really will make a difference in regard to not only doing better for the environment, but limited unnecessary input costs. You know, that's good for the farmer. It's good for the environment. You know, it's just good. It's good for conservation. So very much so. Broadband plays a big part of that. I'm a co-chair of the Rural Broadband Caucus. So much of this equipment depends on being wired. In fact, rural America depends on being wired, because if you're not, we used to think in terms, I'm on the EPW committee, we used to think in terms of the 3 R's, roads, railroads, and runways, and you throw in water. That's how you grow. But if you're not wired now, you simply aren't going to grow. So yeah, I would agree with that. I'm not in favor of idling. I'm not in favor of the 30 by 30. Mm-hmm. I have a real concern about doing that, in the sense that we're blessed. We've got a lot of lands that are good working lands, and we work so hard, and we need to work harder to get market share overseas, to do these trade deals. That's kind of the lifeblood of farming. And you start idling a bunch of land, you're going to lose market share. And then the other thing, from a climate standpoint, there's no way that Brazil or whoever, you know, is going to do it in the environmentally sensitive way that the farmers of America do. Going to use a lot more acreage. You're going to use a lot more input. And so for lots of reasons, I would be concerned about that part of conservation.
Well, you brought up CRP. You've talked about, in the context of the crisis in Ukraine, you asked and got a no from the department about...
We're going to keep asking.
You're going to keep asking. Does CRP need to be reduced? Is that a potential source of funding for these other programs?
You know, I think we underestimate the real crisis that we're in right now. You've got all of this, you know, the production of Russia, production of Ukraine coming off market. You've got their ability to produce fertilizers, you know, in Russia. The list goes on and on. So we're looking at very, very high food prices, I think, in the future. David Beasley, the head of the World Food Program, former South Carolina governor, just a wonderful person, won a Nobel Peace Prize last year or the year before, doing such a great work. When you visit with him, what he's trying to decide now is he's taking food away from hungry people to give to starving people. I mean, that's really where he's at, because what's happened is he's got this kind of fixed amount of money, and all of a sudden everything has gone up so dramatically, he can't buy as much. So he's working very, very hard. So this has a lot of ramifications. I think we need to consider it a national crisis. I'm not advocating taking that land out forever, but I do think we need to be scratching our heads right now and really doing whatever we can do to make things a little bit better, not only for our country, but you're going to have a lot of hungry people in the next couple of years.
So what is your proposal on going to be beyond? You had proposed delaying the sign up.
I think we need to delay. I think we need to be flexible and look at some of the, you know, perhaps the better land that's in conservation now. You know, if somebody wants to bring, you know, we can think outside the box, and just like we did, you know, so many of you all in your different businesses had to deal with problems you'd never dealt with during COVID. You know, the ladies that do a tremendous job, our school lunch professionals did, you know, they sucked it up and just made it work. I guess what I'm advocating, let's make it work. And I don't really know that I know exactly how to do that, but I think we ought to put everything on the table. We need to sit down and discuss it.
Sometimes news events. While we were here this afternoon, the Security and Exchange Commission released a rule that would require corporations to disclose their greenhouse gas emissions, including those in their supply chains. Is there a role that the federal government, the USDA, is going to have to play in terms of helping producers meet these requirements that companies are starting to put on them and may increasingly do?
Well, I'm not aware of the rules, so I'm really not, versed in that. I'm very concerned about trying to tie these things to crop insurance and R-Ark and PLC. And if you're not climate smart enough, or if you don't produce it the way they want you to produce it in Washington, you're not going to get to participate. So I'm very, very much against that. I'll give you a good example of how these things are. When I was first in Congress, the lead certification on forestry was so strict that GSA passed the government services agency that builds our buildings. They wouldn't let non-lead certified lumber be in federal buildings. Well, it turned out that there wasn't any lumber in Arkansas that was LEED certified. There's very little lumber that was certified in the United States that was LEED certified. So we were buying all of our lumber from overseas, okay? I mean, these are the crazy things that you start wandering into. It took us several years to get that fixed, but I think that's the kind of path that you're going down with these kind of things. It's a big deal.
We have a question from our audience. Which of the Farm Bill titles do you think is going to be the most contentious? And what can the private-public collaboration do to assist?
Well, I'm looking at Pat. He lived through this on a record number of farm bills. To me, I think that you kind of can work out the farm aspect, and the regionalism, is so important. The I's, Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, is different than the South and different than the Great Plains. We're all different. And you kind of work together, and after a lot of squabbling, you get the commodities straightened out. I think probably the nutrition aspect is not hard, but you've got so many different groups, and they're all good people. They just have different ideas, as to what needs to be done. And the reality there is there's probably a lot more that needs to be done than there is money. That's the thing, and so that's just working with probably working that out. Not that it's contentious. It's just hard to get everybody feeling like they can live with whatever you're talking about. Does that make sense?
Right. The Senate in the last two farm bills has rejected cuts that came over from the House to the nutrition title. Has there been any change in the Senate? Would you expect that to happen again, regardless of who's in
I'm not going to pre-conference it in here, but I have no idea, what that's going to look like. Again, I'm a co-chair of the Hunger Caucus. I'm very involved in the nutrition programs in the school. They've got, especially now, with inflation rising, the other problem they've got is because of the so strict nutrition standards, nobody makes the food that they have to serve. So we're dealing with a lot of issues like that, again, we just need to use some common sense and try and work it out.
Commodity title. There's been a lot of farmers or farm groups are saying, yes, these prices are high, but the input cost, no one knows what's going to happen to fertilizer cost over the
cost, or if
months.
You can get it.
Yeah. Is there anything that you all are going to be able to do in the Farm Bill, in the commodity title, to address that, to increase reference prices, and where would the money come from?
Well, I think the world looks very different now than it did when we wrote the last title. So I'm not sure exactly how we're going to get it worked out, but right now, probably, I think it's fair to say that the safety nets are not adequate for the situation that we're in today. Now, who knows what it'll look like a year from now, as we really are finalizing things. I think it's difficult to tell because none of us predicted being in the situation that we're in now. But, certainly I think everybody's going to be working in good faith to make sure that the safety nets are in place. If not, then farmers are going to have a very tough time getting loans. And we're so blessed. We've got the cheapest, safest food supply. You all know this better than anybody. And we need to protect that. So I think, there's a willingness. As far as where you get the money, we'll just have to, see what's going on then.
Well, in 2018...
Nobody seems to worry about that anymore.
Chairman Roberts came up with a secret fund for the electric co-ops. Do you have any Do you have any secret funds?
Ask him about that. No, I don't have any secret funds. Hopefully somebody's got one
ideas.
somewhere, yeah.
Well, thank you for your time. One last question. Sweet 16, Arkansas, how are the Razorbacks going to do?
Arkansas is going to do well. I don't know that I'd bet my last paycheck on playing Gonzaga, who looked awful. We looked pretty rusty there the other night, and Gonzaga looked awful good. So, but we're blessed. We've come so far in the last few years, and we're formal. I remember the '90s when Arkansas under Nolan Richardson, was just the team to beat. It was the team you loved to beat. And we want to get back in that situation like Kansas.
All right. Thank you, Senator
Thank you all
Boozman.
so much.
Thank you very much.
Out here, you learn that to keep growing, you have to keep changing. Change how crops grow and how farmers grow their business. How grain moves to more markets across the globe. How we care for our land today and tomorrow. CHS and the farmers and ranchers we serve know all about change, because together, we've changed agriculture. And now we're the largest farmer-owned cooperative in the country. That means farmers own the system they count on, giving them power through collective strength and advantages at every step. From agriculture tools to expansive market opportunities to energy solutions, we're constantly making the connections so farmers can grow what they want, how they want. It all starts on the farm. From fertilizer to feed and everything in between, all decisions matter. That's why our agriculture tools are always evolving, providing farmers with integrated solutions that optimize crops at every stage. Paired with our local expertise, we're arming them with more technology than ever before, leading to smarter decisions, stronger growing seasons, and a more sustainable future. Once farmers harvest those crops, our work continues, because our global grain and processing expertise helps pinpoint markets with the most valuable opportunities for their crops. With domestic processing and our vast network across 65 countries, we're moving billions of bushels year-round. Also, farmers can make the most of every crop. Whether you're running a combine, hauling goods, heating your home, or filling up your car, everyone needs energy. So we're developing smarter, more reliable ways to power everyone's needs while embracing versatile energy solutions that will lead us to what's next. Driven today by integrity, safety, inclusion, and cooperative spirit, CHS was created by farmers for farmers to foster relationships and strengthen communities, to better care for our land and shape the future of agriculture. CHS and its farmer owners are always changing because the world needs us to keep growing. So we're always creating connections to empower agriculture. Learn more at chsinc.com.